Test.
Testing.
All right, everybody, say a little something.
Say test.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, that was deep.
Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Deep.
3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8.
This is AusetGypsy, the podcast show.
Welcome to AusetGypsy, the podcast show. This is James Jacob Peary.
And Rev B.
And we're back for another titillating episode.
We're back. Wait. To do this appropriately for this episode, it should be they're back.
They're here.
Oh, you're right. They're here.
And who's here?
Carol Ann. All right, sorry.
Well, Carol Ann couldn't make it. She's still trapped in the TV somewhere.
Yes, she is.
Looking for Carol Ann until the bass drops. I still love that meme. Until the beat drops. Little Tanzia thrown back like she's at an EDM party. But we don't have Carol Ann in our humble little studio today, but we do have the Paranormal Spirit Finders group, of which B is an esteemed member, and I am eager and excited to chat with on the show because, in essence, let's just call a spade a spade. You guys are a bunch of ghost hunters.
Yes. Should we cue in the music?
I don't know if we have the licensing for it.
That's true. That's like copyright infringement, and they're going to start knocking on the door
And
with.
they're already planning a new movie.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Although I did like the other one, and that's a whole nother conversation. It'll cause a fight because I'm probably the only one who likes it, at least in my.
It's true. She is.
I know. But yes, so we are paranormal investigators. We tend not to like the term ghost hunters. So for me personally, because we don't hunt ghosts because they have personalities and they have soul and nobody likes to be hunted.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
I think we just all get snagged on ghost hunters because we always see those shows on
Right.
every channel. In the
Right,
middle
because
of the night.
there's thousands of ghost hunting shows, absolutely. And they are very Hollywood and not real life. I'm sorry to burst everybody's bubble. Everybody's going, what? What do you mean it's not real? It's not. And even if they're listening, listen, you have a 30-minute show. You have to show the best of the best.
Right.
It takes a long time to get that really good stuff.
The haunting and scary part of their shows is called ratings.
Yes,
In order to keep
ratings.
that show on the air and to keep the audiences entertained, they need ratings. So,
Yes.
I also wonder, the ghosts that pop up on the show, are they union? Are they going to get their paycheck?
That's a really good question.
These ghosts being taken advantage of.
Right? They keep showing that, in syndication. Somebody's going to have to get that check. I wonder if they have to pass it down to their relatives.
Exactly. Hey, that's an interesting thing to bring up, isn't it?
Right? Hey, that's my dead uncle. I deserve that paycheck.
That's right. All that hype and all that image. Yeah, someone's got to get the residuals and the royalties for that.
That's what I'm thinking.
They're going to need to go get their SAG card and their after card.
Right?
Yeah. Because I'm sure those ghosts appear in more than one show.
Especially
if a bunch of paranormal investigators of different groups go to the same location and it's that same ghost over and over and over.
See? I just thought of a new career. I could be a ghost PR person.
There you go. I think
and
it would
I could
work.
do it too.
You could. You're the one they come to.
That's right.
You kind of really are already, though. That's kind of your gig. Maybe you could put that next to Mortera.
Right.
I can never say it as
Mortera.
Mortera.
No, that's
Ghost PR.
Yeah, AKA Ghost PR.
If you're a ghost and you're out there listening, B's the one.
Yep. Give me a call. You know how. I don't have to give you my number.
She's kind of like the BB from Frasier of Ghost PR. Wish I can find an agent like that.
Right.
Jeez. BB, if you're out there, call me.
Call me.
You're the agent I'm looking for. So how was things? Anything new? Well, these guys are getting set up and comfortable and acquainted in the parlor.
I think I'm excited for our December 12th gig at the Gallows where people can meet us face to face and we'll be podcasting there. The Gallows is located in Allentown, PA. The owner is a direct descendant
Which
of
is a spooky place.
Right. Woo! Yeah, that's true. It's actually in a good place, a good section of Allentown. But the owner is a direct descendant of one of the last people who were punished for supposedly being a witch. 8th, 9th, 7th descendant, but he's got the what is it called? The
family tree.
Family
The
tree,
crest.
right up on the wall. So he's got all the names, and it goes all the way down to him. It's really interesting to see, but it's also a distillery. Really cool. He's got like the big stills in the back, and
nice.
and lots of pictures of Salem, and it's just it's a really quaint place. But it'll be fun.
So if you can't drive the 5 hours from where we are,
just go to the gallows. Just get right to the point. But yeah, we'll have actually Paranormal Spirit Finders there. We'll be interviewing the owner. We'll have Rick Potter, who is our podcast extraordinaire guest, who is also a druid. So we'll have him talk a little bit about what it's like to practice druidry. So we've got a lot of really cool stuff. And you get to meet us in person.
I'm excited about this because, believe it or not, with all of the things I've experienced and done in my career and even just in my life, this is one corner I've never dabbled in.
Really?
Well, not seeing ghosts or spirits, that's part and parcel of what I do, but not in the way that your group and you do it in a whole like that. I've never had the opportunity to work with a group like that, and I never even watched those shows a lot, which is funny because I guess, when you're in this world all day long and, crystal balls and tarot cards and the spirits and the gods and the this and the that, you want to go home and just watch like Grace and Frankie.
You know what? I agree, and I don't watch them either. And I don't watch them because I get annoyed because, first of all, I know our group, we definitely don't function that way. For some of the shows, they go in and they're yelling, "Hey, talk to me, where are you?" We don't do that because, again, they're spirits, they're souls, they were people, they have personality. Somebody screams at me and says, "Hey, listen to me, I'm going to be," there's certain fingers I would give them, and that would be the end of the conversation. But interestingly, when I think growing up and always seeing spirit, shadows, ghosts, whatever you wanted to talk, whatever you wanted to call them, and not understanding what was happening, I also had an affinity for horror movies. And when I tell you, like The Exorcist, like horror movies, they would scare the bejesus out of me. But I couldn't get enough of them, but I watched them, and it's only since I've been older I recognize how I used to watch them. I used to watch them like they were documentaries. Because for me, it's this stuff really happens. Like I'm seeing this stuff and trying to get an insight that they were going to show me something, because at the time I didn't have anybody explaining to me why this stuff was happening. So I was actually looking at them as if they were my textbook, which actually made it worse, because when you're, a 10-year-old watching these really outlandish horror movies that scare the crap out of you, and you're thinking, well, they did it wrong because they all died. You don't have a good sleep. So there weren't too many that did it right. So, other than that, the actual investigation type movies, those were not really the thing that I watched. And how I got in this group.
The one that always comes to mind for me is The Conjuring, because me and,
yes.
me and my one niece, we still giggle to this day, because when they took that little girl and spun her around the room and threw her against the wall, that was it. We still just call each other and go,
yes.
I have an affinity for horror movies too. It's called the Hallmark Channel. And especially at the holidays or July, one or the other.
No.
Those movies scare the bejeebus out of me as well too. Oof, their plots.
My
their
favorite,
twists, their
my
turns.
favorite author is actually Stephen King. And if you look, I have in my, and you've seen it in my living room, I have the one wall of all books. And if you look at the one bookcase, half of it are all Stephen King hardcover books. And all of his movies, for me, they were very scary, but there was so much depth to what he was doing. And at the end of them, in my head, I would think, this makes sense. Like, I totally get what he's doing. And then, ironically, when my oldest son was going to high school, he actually went to high school with his niece. And I didn't find that out until years later. I'm like, damn, I wish I knew that because, I wonder if there was a way I could have met him in real life,
Oh, hands down, my favorite Stephen King character in all of his books, Margaret White.
Oh, yes.
I should have known it'd been
Should
red.
have known. Red.
Say it, woman. Say it. And the Raven was called Sin. I'd watch this on Pix, WPIX Channel 11 as a kid.
Yes.
Every year it came on. I would get excited. I'm like, here it comes, here it comes. What was the other thing? Backslider. Here's a quick funny story. When I lived in Orlando, me and a friend of mine, we were on this kick with all of that, and we had a little inside joke. So we decided to have T-shirts. I think I had a tank top made, and his said "Backslider," like Carrie the movie, and mine was what was mine? But I'm completely ruining the story now for everybody. Forgive me, my brain is mashed potatoes. His was Backslider, and mine was not Sinner. What does she call Carrie?
Oh. Carrie was one of my
right. That's what I'm talking about.
my favorites. Right.
And she called her a backslider at one time, and we thought this was hilarious. So, in jokes and stuff, if we were in public, I'd be like, "Hey, backslider, pass me the salt and pepper." And I was the devil. No, I'll have to tell the story another time. I think I'm just more excited to finally dig in and talk with our guests tonight, which are Paranormal Spirit Finders.
Which we do have a Facebook page, Paranormal Spirit Finders. We have a email, paranormalspiritfinders@gmail.com. Sorry, not very unique, but easy to find.
Hey,
so
it doesn't have to be unique.
That's right.
To the point.
Right to the point.
I think our guests are all set up in the parlor now, and I think they're ready for us. So with no further ado, shall we?
I'm going to break the copyright law.
And cut. Interesting guests on the AusetGypsy podcast show tonight. B has invited down the Paranormal Spirit Finders group from, I would safe to say, Easton, Pennsylvania?
Yes, I think Easton is safe to say.
Well, I know that
that mysterious place in Easton where...
Oh, Easton's a mysterious place, all right.
But that's going to be another episode.
That's another show. But this is B's group of friends, and it's been really interesting to kind of sit in the middle of all of this and listen to some of their side conversations that haven't been heard on the show yet, but we're going to bring them on in a moment. B, fill us in a little bit about your group and your friends, and this is your whole side of life.
They're quite cool. So yes, I invited Paranormal Spirit Finders to guest on today's show, and I will let each of them introduce themselves, give a little quick blurb about who they are, what they do, and how they came to the group. I was privileged to be asked to join as their resident I See Dead People person.
Is that the official title? How do they get that all in a name tag?
No, they can't. I even have my name abbreviated on the back. I think it says Rev B or something like that, because I just take up too much room. Not physically, not yet. I'm trying not to eat too many Christmas cookies this year. I help to support the group in our investigations, and then if we tag onto a ghost that's a little too sketchy and maybe needs a little bit of help, I'll go in and see what I can do.
Well, I've heard some of your stories.
Fun, right?
They're really interesting. Yeah, and I can't wait to hear them from all the different points of view from everybody in the group. And, it's going to be a real treat for the audience and the listeners tonight. But it's really fascinating because, believe it or not, out of all of the unique, odd, weird, strange, wonderful things I've done, the whole corner of paranormal investigation, other than having my own experiences with spirits or ghosts, I've never gone the route of Ghostbuster and explored that. I've seen the shows, And I've got to meet a couple of the hosts and groups on those shows and different events and stuff. But it was always like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. You look familiar. Oh, I don't know how to talk about any of this. So this is going to be a treat for me tonight, too. So with no other further ado, I will let you take the wheel.
Da-da-da. I do want to add one thing, though, what I find interesting about those shows, which are packed full of drama, suspense, action. It's not real. It's not real.
You're breaking my heart.
I'm
Of
so
course it's got to be real.
Break your heart. I say it's not real just from the perspective of, depending on how long that show is, 30 minutes, an hour, there's a lot of work that goes to it. And I'm going to steal Nolan's thunder, and it's a line that he usually uses. Most of it's quite boring. And there's hours and hours and hours and sometimes days, and that'll be Jim's part to talk about a lot of film and recordings that have to be listened to. And when you're watching these shows, you're getting the best parts.
Oh, psst, hey, you out there listening in the audience land. I don't believe them. I bet it's more exciting than they're letting on.
I wish you just walk in and poof, there they are. But I'll let them tell you. So without further ado, Paranormal Spirit Finders. So we can go around the room and they can introduce themselves and who they are and where they started. So Jim's pointing at Nolan. I'm going to apologize because I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. So if my voice kind of goes in and out, it's not the poor quality of our microphone and I'm saying that because we've had some challenges with our new technology. But this time it's not the technology, it really is my vocal cords. So, everyone's pointing at Nolan. So, Nolan?
I'm Nolan from Paranormal Spirit Finders. How our group got started. Jim and I worked together for about 10 years, and we used to watch all the shows on TV, and the next morning at work we would discuss the show, and our coworkers are looking at us like we're nuts. And we got some of them to now be believers based on evidence we've caught over the years with our investigations. And they said that's how we got started. We each had personal experiences and said, you know what, we're going to start our own group, and here we are.
Well, these paranormal shows really are hot. And it seems with the advent of so many new networks popping up because of, like B said before, technology. It goes beyond just cable television. It now goes into all of these different realms of visual entertainment. It seems these shows are everywhere. So it's interesting to hear that this is real, like that phenomenon inspired the two of you to go experiment and explore and actually do it on your own instead of just kicking back with a bag of Cheetos and sitting watching a marathon of this. You actually got up and went and explored it. That's exciting.
It is. In the beginning, it was kind of like, we're doing this as a hobby. And then we got into it a little bit more, and it turned into something not deeper for us, but more important, helping families, helping people who have things going on in their home that think they're crazy. And
what was the point that it went from being a hobby nestled in between macrame and crocheting to then actually becoming a vocation?
There were some things we did publicly through some tour groups that asked us to help out with, and then through that we started a web page, we started a Facebook page, and then people started contacting us, asking us to come in. Hey, we want some solidity here. We're not crazy, but this is going on. Would you come help us? Like, we can't find anybody else who's willing to come in and do this.
So did it go big, like you went from like dispiriting a home and then like being hosts at the local car lot opening? Like, did you get endorsements? Did you guys like hit local fame levels like that?
Yes and no. For the most part, no.
So I'm going to say, well, I don't know about no, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that this group is the only official group that's in the Lehigh Valley, or?
It seems that other paranormal teams have disbanded or are no longer investigating. So it seems like we are one of the last paranormal groups in the Lehigh Valley.
And that's going to segue into your introduction. Now we're all pointing at you.
My name is Donna. Jim is my husband.
Wait, I thought Jim was my husband.
You want him? Sorry, I didn't really mean that, I think.
Rephrase.
Yeah. So the way that I got into it was, it's all Jim's fault. So
See, I get blamed for all this. Very true.
I did not want to have anything to do with ghosts, with paranormal, with anything. He said to me, he goes, oh, there's these new shows on. I want to really watch these. And I'm kind of like, oh, man. Because I was never one for scary movies. I grew up in a very old farmhouse. And my room had the attic door. It wasn't even the attic pull-down door. It was a full 6 foot, however big a door is, to the attic. And things would fall down those attic steps all the time. And I was the only one in the room.
So you were used to this.
No, it scared the
Like-
bejeebies out of me.
Unwillingly.
I did not, yes, unwillingly. I did not want to have anything to do with it. The first couple of shows that we watched, they went through a scientific way of trying to find and document the other side. So as a mathematician and scientist, I related to that more than, oh, we're just going to see if something talks to us and that kind of things. Like I wanted to either see it, hear it, feel it, touch it. Like I had to have concrete evidence for myself.
And what was it like when you touched it?
Well, I haven't yet.
Oh, so
I
that's
have-
the search continues.
The search continues. Otherwise, I'd say, yeah, I'm done. I've done it all. I'm good. But no, it continues. So I've heard it. I have been, shirts have been tugged on me. So, I'm still in pursuit of finding that holy grail evidence to say, yeah, okay, now I really believe this. And when Nolan says about the fact that him and Jim would discuss the shows the next day at work, yeah, they would, but it became a bromance. Nolan's wife and I would conversate all the time about the fact that they would be on the phone from the time the show started to the time the show ended, and they would only talk when the commercials were on.
9 o'clock till 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Like two teenagers.
Oh my God, yes.
Did
I
you
was
see
like,
that? Did you see that? Did you
who
see
am
that?
I
Did you
married
see
to
that?
here? So, but you did not call them. You did not talk to them. You did not. It was you. Mm-mm.
But now I think we should boomerang to the other side of the room and introduce Jim.
The other part of the bromance.
Yeah, part of the bromance. Well, I'm Jim. I'm basically, you want to call me a co-founder, I guess, because since Noah and I started this disaster together. And basically, I'm the guy who listens to EVPs.
What's an EVP?
Electronic voice phenomenon. It's
I
the
thought it was
voices-
like-
the voices that you and I can't hear with the naked ear, but the equipment picks it up. So that's basically our bridge between our side and their side. Is basically what the equipment we have.
It has nothing to do with EDM.
No.
Electric dance music. Oh, okay.
Well, it
Although
depends.
sometimes with EVP you could pick up some electric dance music on the floor. You never know. It's a strange thing. You never know what you're going to pick
Maybe you
up
should do a remix. Take some of these EVP recordings and turn them into. Oh, never mind. I don't know what I'm saying
I can
anymore.
take some of the footstep sounds and might come up with a dance move out of it.
Oh, hey. Maybe
never
that's what
know.
these
But we
ghosts are trying to
digress.
show you.
But to me, I got started with this whole thing. Well, of course, with the Nolan, with Corporeal and Nolan and stuff like that. Actually, some of mine was my grandmother. Some of the stuff that she used to pull in the house. Well, actually, some of the stuff that I pulled when I was a kid. I used to leave lights on,
Right.
and all this stuff, and then she'd yell at me, "What are you leaving the lights on?" She wrote signs. Donna can vouch for this. There used to be signs in the basement that said, "Did you turn the light off?" Well, when she passed away, all of a sudden, crazy things started happening in the house. I'd go downstairs, the light's on. You knew you'd turn off the light. Things would be moved in the house. You couldn't find it like 3 months later. It would show up again somewhere else. Like there's something to the validity of this stuff that's going on around here. Thinking, I should start like investigating stuff like that. I've seen this on TV. I think I could do this. Boom, there it was. Conversation started with him and I. Conversation went from there. Next thing you know, went to buying equipment. Then I went to buying more equipment. Then I went to being banned from Amazon for my wife. Then it went to more equipment.
And then
it
the
went to-
bromance started.
And then the bromance started, and then next it was 2012. We did our first investigation. It was at her dad's. place.
The bromance got so bad that we went on a tour around the Lehigh Valley to some locations, and we were at this one restaurant, and we had a pretty exciting thing happen, and then a couple weeks.
And this was before our group started.
Yes.
Jim and Nolan had taken a tour that stopped at 4 different restaurants for a Halloween tour.
Fast forward 2 months, we were like, hey, why don't we go back to that one restaurant, take the wives, and then we'll do some investigating there during dinner. It's a 2-for-1. So we took our wives out to dinner. We had equipment on the middle of the table.
Oh, how romantic.
And we had people
Dinner with equipment.
We had people looking at us like, okay, what are these
you doing?
people doing? But we did get some validity there because my wife Crystal had a conversation with the little boy Freddie
Yeah.
that does not care for me and doesn't like wearing my baseball hats.
And where's this place?
It's the Hanoverville Roadhouse.
Where
And
we've done some
Bethlehem.
investigations
Yeah,
and
Bethlehem,
had some
Pennsylvania.
interesting things happen there.
Is this like your local haunt? Mind the pun.
Yeah,
One,
pun intended.
one of them.
One of them, man.
Yeah, we've done. Mark came to us. Mark's the owner of the Hanover Roadhouse. He came to us for the National Ghost Hunt Day because he was approached.
There's a National Ghost Hunt Day?
Yeah, so
There's a
talk
national
about
What is
this.
that?
So
what's,
this was
what's
fun.
the day?
Yeah. So it
When
was.
is it?
It's usually the
It's usually
last
last weekend.
Saturday
Yeah.
in
last
September.
Saturday in September.
Okay.
Yeah. So he actually had been following our page and had contacted us to see if we wanted to do the investigation.
Which is funny because remember we got contacted by 2 places in the same day. Same day within an hour of each other.
Yep.
Wanted us to do.
So you guys are a popular group.
Apparently.
You're in demand.
Apparently.
Well, and the funny thing is that Mark also belonged to a paranormal group that was. He decided to leave that paranormal group because they were faking evidence. So he decided to leave that group on his own, and he was going to try and do his own, like pull people together to do the investigation himself. And he said, "No, I can't be the owner and the investigator and everything else." So that's why he had contacted us to see if we wanted to do it. That led into what the last one was going to be our 4th investigation there or 5th.
The one that we did recently.
5th.
Yeah, the one that got canceled would have been the 5th
4
investigation.
sellouts and the 5th one
Didn't sell out,
sell out.
but it's dinner and a ghost hunt.
And we've sold the 4 that we did. We actually sold them out. But the National Ghost Hunt Day is essentially all these different locations all over the U.S. Correct?
All over the world.
World. Oh, I'm sorry, all over the
So
world.
this is an international thing.
Where
Yeah.
people are ghost hunting at
Wow.
the same time, and the premise behind it was wasn't someone supposed or some people were
They're
supposed to be
supposed to get
channeling or trying
they're
to
supposed
put out.
to get. I got paperwork that was about probably like 5 inches
Yeah.
thick to fill out, which was a joke in itself. But that's another whole story. The premise of the whole thing is they're supposed to get all the world to ask these 7 questions
At the same time.
at the
the
same
same
exact
time.
time and to see what comes through. And supposedly the answers were written on a picture frame in the main office. What answers they thought should come back
Right.
were written on a piece of paper, and everybody had to gather their evidence together once they're done, and then send them back what the answers you got from those 7 questions and see if they match what the hell was on the back of the wall.
And what was the end of the, what was the turnout? What happened?
Well, the interesting thing is all the electronics didn't they all go? They all went kaput. Like they had
Mark's
trouble.
cameras went down.
Yeah.
The server went down.
So part of the National Ghost Hunt agreement was that you connected through the internet, that everybody was connected at the same time, and that the home base for this function could pull anybody's investigations at any time. So like if somebody was getting a lot of evidence, they could pull from that and show it on their website.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they could just yank the video up of what's up on your place and just, this is what's going on at the Roadhouse right
The
now.
live feed, yeah. They pick
live
up the
feed.
live feed.
But what a great idea! I didn't know that existed. Now I hope that if the audience doesn't know that exists, I hope they check it out next September.
I hope so too. The thing that happened at Mark's was he put infrared cameras all throughout the building because there hadn't been anything like that in the building before. So he
Right.
put everything in there. He installed 7 TVs
7 TVs were scattered
and
around.
big screen TVs
Yeah.
to put throughout the restaurant so that everybody could watch a couple of videos that he had captured.
So this was like the Super Bowl of
Yes,
This
it
was
was
like
the
the
Super Bowl
paranormal
paranormal
investigation.
Yes, it was.
correct.
That's
The
brilliant.
night of the investigation, all the TVs went down.
Really?
The only one that worked that was in the one corner
Yeah.
of the restaurant.
Yep.
That was it. All the infrared cameras went down. His
Yeah.
Wi-Fi went down.
So it was just too much ectoplasmic energy
Whatever
generating
it
throughout
was,
the whole
did
world.
not want to
Did a lot of
be
other people
exposed.
experience that too, or
We had equipment failure.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah,
at
we
least
had-
5 different. When I tried to communicate with the woman that was in charge of our district, they said there was at least 5 different areas that had the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
At least 5.
So yeah, other locations were having the same kind of problems.
Yeah.
I have another question for you guys. Now you talk about all this equipment, and I've seen some of it. I don't know anything about any of it myself, but I'm sure people are curious to know when they watch these TV shows or when they listen to an interview with people who have experience with this. Bells are going to go off, and one of the questions are, okay, you're dealing with the metaphysical world, you're dealing with the technological world, and where does training come in? Is there like CEUs you guys can take, and
Jim's a tech guy.
where do you, I'm sure people want to know, do they get degrees for this? Do they train in this? Are there schools for this? There's always people who think you always have to go through a school for this stuff.
Yeah, there was
But-
not too long ago. I
What's
saw something. There was a class you could take for go, and you actually did get credits for it. But that was a long. That was a long
Wasn't that
time
at the
ago.
community college?
No, not at NACAC, but there was another one you could get actually a degree. I saw it was online or an online course you could take.
So they're
But
actually.
there are tutorials you could take online from the Go Setting Equipment people.
Right.
Because I get some of my stuff from Amazon was one, Ghost Stop was another, Ghost
Yeah.
Augustine, Ghost Hunter Store. But the Ghost Stop, they actually have tutorials I saw.
Because I can't imagine how complicated these things are. I'm lucky I probably use like 12% of what my iPhone's capable of. I can't imagine what these things can do.
I would agree with you there.
For me, what I do is if I like the tutorials, like with the Ghost Stop, I'll get stuff from them. I'll look at the tutorial first, how you use it first,
Right.
to see if I even
So that's where
if it's even worthwhile even buying.
And so the rest is trial and error then? It's just
Sometimes.
like per case, everything's different. I'm sure there's not like a prescribed method for every single case
No.
you tackle.
Although certain paranormal investigators will have favorite pieces of equipment.
What's the preferred?
Well, certain
Thing.
investigators have
It
preferred
depends.
equipment. So, Jim's favorite piece of equipment.
Well then.
Well, that to me lately has been a
Not
flashlight.
The simple flashlight, the past 2, I think that we've gone to, we have had complete conversations with the flashlight.
So now, what makes the flashlight so flexible in communication?
Well,
It's easy to set up.
exactly.
There's no,
For you or for the
There
ghosts?
is no cords plugged
Either
in.
way.
Right.
There's no worrying about this button, that button, this button. You lay the thing on the table, you turn the knob where it's basically off, and you let it lay.
So sometimes simple is just
Right,
best.
and when we
Yep.
say flashlight, we're talking about the
mag flashlight.
the mag flashlight. So you have to turn it on, turn it off. So think about how you have to do that. It takes energy to turn that on, turn that off. So when you put that down on the table, if you think about, and I think I explained this at our last investigation to the woman that was at the house, asking, well, how is that happening? If you remember the experiment that we probably all did when we were in school, where you took the potato and you put 2 wires in it, and then it was attached to a light bulb, and when you took that one wire and finally made the complete connection, the light bulb went on. It's similar with that light bulb, with that flashlight. When the energy of that spirit touches that flashlight, which is an open source because we haven't turned it to complete the circuit, the spirit's energy touching that flashlight will make it turn on because it's completing the circuit.
I take it the spirit really wants to communicate then because
Yes.
it takes a lot of energy
Yes,
for a
yes,
spirit
yes.
to do something in the physical world.
Absolutely. And how you know it's real, because someone would say, well, you could fake it. No, we always know it's a real response when we're asking questions. Not only will the spirit turn the flashlight on, but the flashlight, depending on the type of spirit or how they're answering the questions, it's not just on and off. The light will go dim and bright and it'll slowly go dim or really go bright, and it'll play with the light, and it'll play with the light depending on how you're asking the question. So the simplest thing ends up being the most profound piece of equipment.
So it's easy for them. Well, we have one last person we didn't allow to segue into the conversation, so we saved the best for last. Introduce yourself, sir.
So I am Austin. I am Jim's son. And once again, how I got into this, like Donna said before, it's all his fault. And
See, I'm always blamed for everybody.
and the way how I got into it was, he said to me one night inside the house, all right, I'm going to go downstairs to talk to my grandmother. I was like, you know what? I'm going to come down with him. I'm going to bring my tablet down with him. Of course, I'm like a normal teenager. I'm on my tablet, going on all these different games. And he asked her to turn the flashlight on. And all of a sudden the flashlight turned on. And I was like, and I dropped the tablet.
Literally.
And I was
actually
like,
remember that.
okay, I'm going to get hooked into this. So that's how I got into it.
Notice he's not your son.
I did notice. He does introduce himself that way a lot.
You didn't give birth to him.
Nope.
Well, what about, I'm sure this is a burning question for people who can only ask it towards the television screen, but never get an answer because, although there are smart TVs, they're not that smart yet.
See, you were going to say somebody was going to ask a question,
I
and
know.
just on cue.
What? No, because of cinema and Hollywood, it always seems to be malevolent. Why are all ghosts bloodthirsty and scary? Have you had experiences where it was actually a pleasant experience and not hostile? Because I think a lot of the time for TV, people want to see poltergeists. They want to see heads coming out of closets. They want to see things being thrown around.
That sells stuff, that's why.
Well, look, I want to see little Tangina come out too, and
Now,
I would
let's
say-
get your daughter. Okay, I'm done.
saving Carol Ann until the beat drops.
I would say about 95% of what we've dealt with has been pleasant.
I think even more.
I'd agree. I'd go 98%. There is 2% that we've...
I think we've had probably 2 cases we could actually say was a little bit towards the other side.
One that was a lot towards the other side.
All right, one that was way overboard. We're not going to get into that one.
Well, like they were too nice, like really accommodating ghosts, like
No,
tea
the other
and
way.
No, the other way.
The other way.
Oh, got hostile and got
I guess,
violent.
I mean, I'll say it. We were part of an exorcism. It doesn't get talked about a lot, mainly in the movies, but that stuff does exist. Had I not been there, been a part of it, recorded it, I would have said BS.
The 6.5-hour event.
But I tell you what, it doesn't do the movies justice. I mean, they're scary and whatnot, make you jump, make you cringe. But to witness certain things in person, it's a lot different. I mean, it's reality.
It's an eye-opening experience.
Yes.
To me.
So I think you bring up a really good point with all of this. 98%, they're ghosts that have been there. Our houses are rarely, for those who live in older houses, okay, they're older houses, but people have been in spots before we have been, and those energies have been there before we have been. So it is not unusual to have paranormal experiences because those energies have been there before us. So being okay with having them there decreases the feeling of uncomfortableness because it's the circle of life. Not everything disappears because they're no longer in a physical form. But to what Nolan is saying, what we do, it's awesome, it's great, but like anything, when you get in your car, there's a risk you may get into an accident. You go up the stairs, you might fall down. It's a very, very small risk, but I think for our group, what I like is, we have fun, but you always have to take it at least serious enough to, we'll protect ourselves, we'll have a conversation about what we're doing before we go, get a feel for what the case may be like. because that there's still that one little element of the unknown. What, excuse me, what if it turns into something that's sketchy?
What happens? Okay, you brought up an interesting question without even thinking about it. I think when you were just speaking, is there a difference between older ghosts and more recently deceased ghosts? Because it always seems, again, Hollywood, television, it's always the quintessential haunted house on the hill that has all the old Victorian ghosts in it. Do they just have more experience? You never see on these shows they're like checking out like a modern condo penthouse, and the rich wacky owner who offed themselves by accident or whatever the story may be, 3 years ago, and they're kind of lingering and hanging out and doing ghastly things. Is there a difference between older ghosts and more recently deceased?
I think older ghosts are more picky. To me, I don't know what I've seen. Older ghosts seem to be more picky about where their locations are at. If somebody's doing renovations of the house, they don't like it.
Yeah, because
Don't change that. Leave that the way I had it.
Exactly.
Some of the newer ghosts, they're like, well, they just could care less. That they're just it doesn't really phase them. But
So you can tell the difference between the ages
like
of
the further
these
back
spirits.
the spirits go, it seems like they're more picky about the change of what's happened over the years. They don't like a lot of things that have been changed. They don't want change. They can't deal with change. Sometimes they don't even like the people in the house. We've run into a couple of those already, where they actually didn't like the people in the house. So it's like they have their opinions. I don't know if it has something to do with age. I don't know. When they get more opinionated the older you get, I don't know.
But then there's the thing, though. Are the ghosts old? Are they the age they were when they died? Like, what happens if they were teenage ghosts or little? Like, the whole thing is always some little girl who looks like Shirley Temple playing with a creepy doll in the hallway. That seems to be the recurring theme all the time. I mean, I don't know if I'd really be threatened by Shirley Temple ghosts sitting in the hallway. I don't think that would scare me too much. But, in the movies, they always want to get a fright out of you. So, you're vulnerable. It's a cute little kid. She turns around. She's hideous. That's Hollywood. But in real life, how do you,
But
was there like a kid you talked to who died like 4 years ago?
But time, as humans, we can only look at time in a certain way. It's very hard. Like if we think of infinity or how time stops, like our brain can only wrap ourselves around time in the way we can, being still in this human body. There is no time on the other side. So, somebody passes away, there's no older, younger, they're not going to get older. Things are very different in that other plane. So, if somebody dies when they're in their 20s, are they going to get older? Are they going to get younger? There's even a question of, can they make themselves look different or, appear to you in the way that you want them to see? Because there's no shape, form, time, things change. It's hard for us to say definitively how something is going to appear from that side, except to say that if a child dies, chances are that child's spirit is what's going to be, if it's attached to something at that time. So if a child dies at 4, the chances of it reappearing as a 20-year-old, because it's these poor guys have heard me say a million times, we're no different than spirits, except we're still here in our wrapping. They're not. So they're just not in the wrapping. So it's going to be the same person, the same personality. If you're grouchy then. If you're nice then, now you're nice then. If you're a bitch, you're going to be a bitch then. So it's not likely that the spirit's going to grow up in that place, right, because the time's going to stop.
Well, then speaking of time, of which we're kind of running out, but I would love each one of you to keep it short and sweet, but give with your group,
tell everybody exactly what you do in your role in your group, and then give a synopsis of one of the most impressionable times. We'll start with you, Barb, and then we'll go around the circle.
Like I said, I go in and I help with the general investigation, but I focus more on the spirit because that's what I do. I talk to the spirits. So if they don't need anything, that's fine. We have the conversation. But if it's been in some investigations where the spirit needed to cross over, I try to have things that I may need. I usually sense what we need before we go in. But if a spirit needs to cross over, I'll help the spirit cross over. Most of the time they're, okay. And it's just let them be here and live with that spirit and try to talk to the owner about, being okay with that spirit and how to cohabitate. If in those small instances it is something that shouldn't be there, then it's working with the team to do whatever it is that needs to be done to get it out of there. So whatever kind of cleansing, whatever needs to be done to make sure that it's not there anymore. Because, if it's going to be something that's, I don't like to use the word malevolent. I'm going to rather say just something that is not compatible with the people that are there. And it has to go.
Pretty responsible role. Jim?
Okay, I'm the guy that's the tech, let's call me the tech guy, the investigation guy. I'm the guy that goes around and usually fiddle with all the toys that I got, put the toys out, and put all the equipment all over the place. I'll go sit and I do a lot of the reviewing evidence, the so-called boring part of the things, which is fun when you sit and listen to it for so long and use the crickets on 6 recorders for 4 hours a piece, you hear nothing, or watch videos for like 59-minute videos and 6 or 7 of those and you actually see nothing go by and you actually get starry-eyed. But that's basically my role. We'll do the investigation, I'll do the stuff like that, listen to all the paraphernalia and all that. And actually for me, a moment, if I'd have to dig, it would probably be my great uncle's garage.
Oof.
That was just one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. With the flashlights, with what was going on between Nolan and I in the garage, it was just, even when we would put the flashlight on a flashlight. We held a flashlight on a flashlight and turn it on. It would turn on. And then when I knew it was crazy when I heard my name, my great uncle would call me Jimmy. Now I usually go by James, Jim, or there's a couple other words I usually go by once in a while. But if
what are they, Donna?
She can tell you a few because I know I'm in trouble when I hear them. And then I usually hear if I hear the name Jimmy in a deep tone of voice, I know it's him. And when I heard that across the spirit box, that did it for me. I was totally toast. You can ask Nolan what I looked like when I came in from the garage. You could ask him about that. And I'll leave that at that. That's basic.
We'll zigzag over to Nolan.
To add to that, he was very pale, white as a ghost. Didn't even knock at the homeowner's door to have him let into the house. He just come flying through the door.
If the door had been locked, I think I would have knocked it down.
Yeah, you probably would have.
Yeah.
That night was wild. That was the very first real legit investigation outside of Donna's father's home. We had 40 minutes of flashlight interaction. We videoed it. And along with videoing it, we had voices come through to validate along with the flashlight coming on and off. I forget where I was going to go. I'm considered one of the lead investigators along with Jim. I'm basically quiet at investigations. I like to sit in a corner and observe. I'm more of an observer. I try to get feelings. I try to see things, which I have seen things that even I can't explain. When you see a shadow figure take 4 or 5 steps across a room, watching it on TV, that you hear the shows talk about, I can't see my hand 2 feet in front of me, but you see a shadow figure 50 feet down the hallway go across from left to right. How do you explain that? The only way I can is a shadow figure is darker than the dark of the room.
Ooh, well, keep my eyes open for that.
So my role is an investigator and to keep Jim focused, which is not always the easiest
That's
thing
the
in the
toughest job of the
world.
whole team.
It is. It is. Definitely.
He has a tendency to go off the rails
Squirrel.
on investigations. Actually, worse than shiny squirrel.
I'm shiny squirrel.
Yeah, Barb is shiny squirrel. That's basically my role, and to listen to things that Jim will say, "Oh my God, you got to listen to this," and he'll throw the headphones at me, and I'll be like, "Okay, let me put this down before I listen to what you want me to listen to," and argue what the thing is saying, whatever the spirit's saying. He's like, I think it says this. All right, let me listen to it first. So that's my role in the group, and to support Nolan and Jim in whatever needs to be done. Since
To
I'm
fix me when I get messed up.
then I call Barbara.
And then you get called other names.
And that's where the names come in.
And you, sir?
So my role basically is when
Learning from your old man.
when Nuthead runs out of batteries.
Oh, that's
He's the
right.
battery guy. It's true.
He's a little tech gadget guy.
So I'm the youngest out of everybody.
How old are you?
Out of 16.
Okay.
So I'm the youngest out of everybody. So when he runs out of batteries, he goes yelling at me. He says,
Austin, go get batteries.
"Go get batteries downstairs. Go down to the bag downstairs. I got you 20 minutes to go down and get batteries downstairs while I'm talking to somebody up there."
Or Barbara runs out of batteries.
How many sets of batteries did you have to get me?
He made 7 trips at the Hanover Roadhouse to the attic.
From the basement.
From the basement to the attic, 7 trips for batteries.
That's
So that's all right. You're 16. You can go up and down those stairs in a millisecond. It keeps you healthy. It keeps you on your toes.
And my most memorable moment was probably in Gettysburg.
Why is that?
It was number one. It was where I saw my first apparition.
Ooh.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, it was funny. He saw the apparition. I was standing right next to him. I never saw it. He goes to me, he said, "Dad, look, there's a guy walking down there." I said, "What do you mean walking down there?" He said it was only from here on up. That's all I saw walking.
Really? So it was a torso with arms. There was no legs, and
Yeah.
or
just
the legs
walking
weren't
across-
visible. But
Yeah, walking across the
I actually
battlefield.
have 2 memorable moments. The second memorable moment, we were also in Gettysburg, staying on the same hill, and I decided to bring a trigger object with me, which is
That's right.
basically a way to. It's basically like you're using like a tool with the spirits.
He basically
What he
had
used
a
back then.
Civil War gun, but it was a fake one.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was the sword.
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking the other.
Because we were standing on top of Cemetery Hill, and they had a bunch of cannons up there. So, and I'm also a Civil War guy, so I had all kind of because I watched all the movies and everything else. I know what all the guys called out before they fired off the cannons. So I said all the stuff about the firing off cannons, range and everything else, ammo and everything else. I put the sword down. All of a sudden, off in the distance, hear a cannon go off. Now, it wasn't on the hill, but it was off in the distance.
Yeah, who would be firing a cannon at that late night?
Yeah, and that was around about like
Didn't make
9,
any sense.
9:30
Wow.
at
Which was weird.
And
Yeah,
there was
we
no
caught it on-
reenactments.
And we caught it on every
Wow.
quarter too. You could hear definitely cannon fire.
Wow.
I'm thinking,
That's
it just
cool.
triggered it. What he was doing was just triggering. what
That
was
is
going on.
cool.
If you haven't been,
I've been
go
to
to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
we
it
were
is cool.
middle of the afternoon. We were 4 of us were out there. Joe, who was another
yeah.
member of our group. I had that Sherwood
Joe,
Forest
historian.
ringtone on my old cell phone, and I said, "Well, let's see what we get." And I played that about 3 or 4 times. We actually caught a voice on an EVP coming across saying, "That's not our horn."
Wow.
It's like a kid's voice came
And,
through.
yeah, and
then
there's
we were
nobody
just blown away by
around
it.
for hundreds of yards. It's in the middle of the afternoon, up against a cornfield.
Iverson's Pits is where we were.
Yep.
Walking across the cornfield, and I came across it. And Joe said he did like a little research, and he found that the kids used to carry the banners and stuff. They were 13 and 14-year-old kids used to carry the banners, and he said that's probably one of the kids was.
And
that
they were
guy.
drummer boys too.
Little drummer boys.
Shout out to Joe. So Joe, as I think Jim had mentioned, so Joe is our historian. So any house, any area, we have him basically do the research, or he'll tell us, how old the area is, if there were any other structures on it, if there's any type of burial ground. So we get a lot of really good information from him. So
is
then
Joe a
it's-
member of the team?
Yes, he is.
Are there members? Because this is a condensed version of the team.
Yes.
How many members are in the team?
Well, there's Corey, Meredith, They're two of our investigators. Corey does Reiki. I know she took all those Reiki classes. She does that
Yeah,
stuff. And she helped us out at one of the one cases we did.
Yes, and
With
was that the one that I was with her too? That I had her doing Reiki around the.
While you guys, while we were in the garage,
Yeah.
she was in the house doing the
It was in
Reiki.
Bethlehem, yep.
Yeah.
So that's 7 of you.
And then we just merged. Well, no, actually,
Yes.
it's a
We formed a
GK
partnership.
a partnership.
With who?
GK2 Paranormal.
GK2.
Yes,
It's hard
GK2.
to-
They're from down
Pottstown.
Pottstown. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking New Hope. I know it was
Gary
like
and Chris
towards
Tristan.
South.
Philly somewhere. Yeah, it was south.
South.
That's my shiny squirrel partner.
Yeah, there you go.
I've met them before at the
Yes.
the event up at Split
And we're
Rock. They're
threesome.
cool
Yeah.
people. Yeah, and they've been here to AusetGypsy.
Maybe I
because they
should
were
say
here
that.
He was down here
at the
with Easton
paranormal
event, with the Easton
Easton
psychic and paranormal
Yeah.
investigation weekend. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the two of them. It's a couple.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
fantastic. They're really cool. I like them a lot.
So I think it's exciting because I mean we're
All right, so then there's 9. Are there any more?
and
We do
Claire.
have Claire and we do have Eddie.
And Eddie. So 11.
Yep.
So there's 11
And occasionally Misty.
and Misty. So there's 12 people. So are different people called for different cases, or it's just by availability?
Yeah, I think it's more by
Mainly
it's more-
availability.
Yeah. Okay.
When we get more in depth, then we try to work it out that Eddie and Barbara are there.
Right. Okay.
Or one of the other. Or Claire on call. So that we have.
Right. So it's a pretty large group that can be interchangeable.
Yeah.
And then, I can't imagine what happens if all of you show up at once. That's going to be a pretty big event.
We do have a private team page through Facebook. It seems to be the easiest way to communicate with everybody.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How can anyone in the audience and listeners find out more about the
Shameless
team?
plug.
Reach out and contact you in case they have questions, or they might want to hire you to do an event or a private home paranormal investigation.
So we do have a Facebook page. It is Paranormal Spirit Finders.
Okay.
We also have a website. It's paranormalspiritfinders.net.
We'll put all this up on the AusetGypsy
Yes.
podcast show page, Facebook page.
And we do have an email. It's paranormalspiritfinders@gmail.com.
Easy enough to remember.
So let us know if you need some ghost busting. Ghostbusters 2020! Woo! Sorry.
But thank you all for coming down. This has been really cool and a real treat for me.
One more shameless plug.
What's that?
Come and meet them in person at the Gallows on December 12th, Thursday.
And where's the Gallows?
That is in Allentown, and the Gallows is really cool. It's a distillery, Allentown, PA. We will also be podcasting not only with Paranormal Spirit Finders, so you could shake their hand and maybe see some pieces of equipment. The owner,
I know we're allowed to do that. Is this like a family-friendly event? Is it adults only?
Sure. Probably 16 and over, maybe. Not because there's anything bad going on. Alcohol is served there. But the owner is, I want to say, 8th generation. Don't quote me. I may be wrong on this. Descendant from one of the last individuals that were persecuted in Salem, Massachusetts during the Salem witch trials. And he actually has the timeline stenciled on the walls. It's a really cool place. So we'll be interviewing him again. We'll be I'll say part 2 for Paranormal Spirit Finders, so you get to see them in person. Their alcohol's pretty good. So yeah, come enjoy.
It's going to be live
fun.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
And then AusetGypsy, the podcast show.
Yes.
2 of us will be there podcasting
and
live.
we will also have Rick Potter,
Potter,
who is a druid. So there'll be a lot of fun things going on. So come and have fun with us and come say
Rick
hello
was
to
a
us.
former host on our previous podcast show and a friend of ours and author. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing Rick. I haven't seen Rick in a while, but thank you everybody for coming down and contributing your stories and chatting and.
Thank you for having us.
We'll see you again on December 12th, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.